Hello, and welcome once again to EWTN News' ongoing coverage of the Pan-Amazonian Synod from here in Rome. I'm Matthew Bunson, Executive Editor for EWTN News. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for hanging with us throughout these weeks as the Synod has progressed. At the very opening of the Synod, Pope Francis made the observation that he did not want two synods, one on the inside and a synod on the outside. We thought, as we are concluding this final week of our coverage of the Synod, and as a Synod completes its work, that it would be very helpful to hear from somebody who actually is on the inside of the Synod, and to give us a lot of perspective as to what the bishops and the Synod fathers and experts are talking about, but also to give us more insights as to why this Synod was convoked in the first place by Pope Francis. And to do all of that, I'm joined by Bishop Francis Aline of the Diocese of Georgetown in Guyana. Your Excellency, thank you so much for coming back to be with us here on EWTN.
Not at all.
So you are from Guyana, which is part of the Amazon. Help us once again to have a clearer picture of the immensity and the biodiversity of the Amazon.
The more that the scientists look into it, the more that you just see as you venture into that area is a tremendous variety of beauty, of grandeur, the forms and numbers of species, forms of life and numbers of species is immense. And what's very beautiful is that all of that works together. There's a harmony, there's a symbiosis, and it speaks volumes. You know, as I tell people in the diocese, you know, you cannot live in Guyana and not have faith, because the very setting just speaks volumes of God's presence to you.
Every bishop who arrives has a set of most urgent questions and challenges and problems. What did you bring with you from Guyana that you wanted to make certain was heard here in the Synod?
Certainly our situation identifies with a number of the issues that were addressed by other dioceses. So we have the biodiversity, the whole forest being threatened by mining and logging, and the people who inhabit those areas, you know, they're the ones who are affected by very negatively affected by that intrusion. The laws in Guyana, I think, are a step ahead of some of my neighbors in terms of protecting the indigenous people. Mm-hmm. But that being said, the level of greed, of just the energy that goes behind exploiting the area severely challenges the law, and the lawmakers don't have the means always to sort of call them to order. So, but we have the same challenges with the distances in these communities of the indigenous people. And in my diocese, a small diocese, it's 50,000 Catholics. The whole population is only 750,000. Mm-hmm. And but half of the Catholic population are the people from the indigenous communities. And so the ways for us to effectively minister and be present, that's one of the discussions we had, visiting versus presence in these faith communities. So that would be one of the things, you know, as church, yes, would stand for me as important to be looking at and seek ways of bringing to a better place.
So we have a very clear and obvious reference to Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si from 2015 that
Sure.
Really focused, building on much that Pope Benedict XVI also taught about in terms of integral ecology. Sure. How would you see that coming from the Synod back to Guyana in sort of a practical way that will benefit your diocese and its people?
Well, you know, for me, the Amazon, the forest, the savannas and rivers, they just speak volumes of God's presence, a spirituality that is very alive around you. And it's how to just draw people's attention to that, that they can have that full appreciation. What tends to dominate in the human ecology is a certain harshness and mistrust and exploitation. It's a whole language and vocabulary and outlook which is very unhealthy for the well-being of the human person. So it's to just be able to more and more offer that to people, that it can be much more part of their everyday vocabulary and outlook, that of deep respect, sense of sacredness, of working in harmony and collaboration, of having a disposition of service and compassion. So it's how to build on that human ecology based on what speaks to us in such volumes from the natural order.
We also mentioned the importance of not being a church of visitation, but church of presence. And a number of solutions have been discussed over the last few weeks, proposals. One of them includes the very pro-body, or the ordination of seasoned men. To the degree that you're comfortable talking about it in terms of the discussions of the Synod, where are we with some of those conversations, and especially as you're looking at this draft report?
Well, that was among many possibilities or suggestions for addressing that, that you have these communities, which the distances and the preference of a presence versus a visiting kind of ministry. At the end of the spectrum, is the ordination of married men, which is something very new in the church. And that is not going to be decided at the Synod. Mm-hmm. But at least whatever ideas there were about it, that was aired. And I think that's very important, that we just look at possibilities. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, that brings our attention to what already is working and how can we build on that. In my own diocese, so I'm only on the ground there for 15 years, and I found there very good lay ministry, really competently exercised, people taking up their respective duties, whether as catechists. We developed a ministry called PLAs, Parish Lay Assistants. They were given a level of formation and really rose to the occasion. And so I didn't feel the urgency to the same degree as others might, because I already see something that worked well.
And those ideas are something that you think would work in other parts of the Amazon, along with other ideas in terms of like the permanent diaconate as an expansion for men. So these are ideas you think that also wanted to be heard.
Sure, and those are things mentioned, and in various places those are realities. The dioceses which have a strong diaconate program, that they bring that into their needs.
3 weeks is a long time for you to be away from your diocese. Your work is almost done here. Are you looking forward to returning home?
Yes, certainly. That being said, on the other hand, 3 weeks is probably not enough to really give the best attention to all the issues that we have been looking at. So perhaps not a bad balance for the time being.
Right.
And a good start for where we can think through some of these things further.
With a lot more work to come over the next years.
A very good experience, mind you, of just rubbing shoulders with the other 280 plus bishops, hearing their stories, and that gives a lot of encouragement. And I already met pastors with a deep sense of care for the people in their diocese, and genuinely seeking ways in which they can build on that.
Yeah. Well, Your Excellency, thank you for your gift of time today.
Not at all.
Bishop Francis Aline of the Diocese of Georgetown in Guyana. Be assured of our prayers as you and your fellow bishops conclude your work here.
Thank you.
Well, and thank you once again for joining me for our daily updates. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter. You can also see these episodes on Facebook and on YouTube, as well as at ewtnnews.com and ewtn.com. Also remember to go to all of our outlets of EWTN News, including the Aussie Group, Catholic News Agency, Church Pop, the National Catholic Register, and EWTN News Nightly. Until tomorrow, when we have one more update coming as we continue through the week, please take care. God bless. I'm Matthew Bunson, Executive Editor of EWTN News. Until tomorrow.